Let's talk about a triple leveraged ETF. This is the ProShares Ultra QQQ Exchange Traded Fund, which is a whole lot to say. Basically, it's ticker symbol TQQQ. And why should you care about this? Well, think about this. Imagine companies like Amazon and Tesla and some of these massive tech companies that you think could have a really big upside in the future. And now, what if you could capitalize on that 3 times over? Yes, triple the upside, triple the returns. What if you could do that with one fund? Well, that's what TQQQ aims to do, and we're going to talk about it in this video. But let's look at what it is. Let's make sure we understand what it is you're getting into, the risks, and we'll dive into all those details in this video. All right, so welcome back to Joshua Talks Money. I am Joshua. This is my channel. We talk about money, as you may have guessed. Look, I built and sold a tech company just a few years ago, and I've learned a ton about money. I'm still learning a ton about investing in personal finance, and I want to share those lessons with you right here on that channel. If that sounds good to you, please consider hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button. It would help me out tremendously. It's free, and I would appreciate it. Also, there's a link below where you can click to sign up for Coinbase. Coinbase is one of my favorite companies, one of my favorite stocks, and you can get free Bitcoin by using the link below. You'll be happy that you did. All right, so TQQ, let's talk about it. As you can see right here on the ProShares website, the description of this fund is really to get 3 times the leverage and exposure of the NASDAQ 100. And if you've seen my video about QQQ, this is the Invesco NASDAQ 100 Index ETF. You already know that that is a really powerful set of companies, and it's a fund focused primarily on technology. But these are big, massive companies that have done really, really well, especially over the last 10 years. And so, of course, people would think, man, can it get even better than this? How could I even capitalize further? And that's really where TQQQ comes in, with the goal to try to triple that performance in a single fund. Now, if we take a quick look at the stock charts, you're going to see that QQQ has done very well in the last year, but TQQQ has done significantly better. And you can just see that here as you look at the chart. If you zoom out a little further, even more time has passed, and you'll see this trend continuing. Okay, so you say, well, that looks pretty good to me. Why in the world wouldn't I just put my money there? Well, there's a couple things you have to consider. With that triple leverage to the upside, you're also likely to experience triple leverage down to the downside, right? So as QQQ, as the NASDAQ 100 sells off, you're going to experience greater drawdowns than you would if you were just holding the QQQ fund itself. So this is pretty common, you know, higher risk, higher reward. But if you think of something back like 2020 in March, when there was that huge crash when COVID first kind of swept over the world and people were selling and weren't sure what was going on, you can see that QQQ pulled back about 33% or so. These are rough numbers. But if you look at the same time period for TQQQ, that pulled back over 78%, maybe more, you know, if we got really specific with it. But that's significantly more. Can you imagine you seeing your account drop 78%? I mean, that would be pretty hard to deal with and to try not to sell and just to recover from that. It takes time to dig yourself out of a hole like that. And so that's one thing you have to be very careful. These market swings, and we've seen a lot of volatility, you know, this can quickly go a direction that you may not be predicting when you own a leveraged ETF like this. Something else to consider is we always talk about expense ratios here on the channel. TQQQ has a 0.95% expense ratio. That is significantly more than QQQ, which is a 0.2%. And so over time, you know, that can eat into the amount of money that you're getting from your returns on these investments. And some people may say, well, the upside potential of TQQQ is so high, I'm willing to pay that expense ratio for that type of complex fund, and that's probably fine. Okay, so should you invest in TQQQ? Well, I think you have to really think about those companies that make up a bulk of the fund. And these are the big names we've discussed, like Tesla and Apple and Google. And so those companies are strong. I believe they are poised to continue to grow, maybe not at levels like we've seen in the past, but those aren't, high risk companies necessarily, especially in this technology sector. And so I do think it is worth considering maybe a small investment into that fund if you want to try to capture some upside. However, you have to remember that the S&P 500 has returned a bunch of gains this year. I think it's around 27% in 2021. However, a lot of that return has been concentrated on some of these big tech names. And so when you think about that, you have to think, is that going to continue forever? Have those companies really, really gone up in value and now are due for some kind of correction? And I think it's important to know you can't time the market, but you can consider, hey, have we been in this trend for some time, and does it make the most sense to try to go into a riskier asset like TQQQ right now? As for me, I do not own TQQQ. I have considered it in the past, but I never really jumped in, and maybe I will at some point in 2022. Interested to see kind of what happens this year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and I'll keep you posted. All right, so that's a quick intro to TQQQ. I will leave you with this. There is this triple leverage to the upside, but there's actually another fund that tracks the triple leverage to the downside, and that is SQQQ. So imagine if you think the NASDAQ 100 companies are going to crash, well, SQQQ would actually go up 3x, hypothetically, to capture when those companies draw down. So pretty cool inverses, right? You could play both sides. It's not something I do, not something I recommend doing, but it is fascinating. All right, hey, so that is it. A quick intro to TQQQ. TQQQ, yes. Leave me a comment below. Let me know, do you own this fund? Have you invested in it before? Or have you invested maybe in SQQQ or the NASDAQ index from Invesco? Let me know. I reply to every single comment. I love talking to you guys. Hey, one more thing. I'm filming this right now on January 1st, 2022. We've been through a couple crazy years with COVID. It's been a really challenging time for a lot of people out there. And my message to you is to think about, what does this year look like? What do you want to see in the world? Make a list, set some actionable items to make that happen, and go create the life that you want. You can do it. Shape this year. Shape it into what you're looking for out of life. You'd be surprised at the results when you try. All right. Bless you guys. We'll see you later.